This presentation will cover the European Parliament. We will examine its identity, its functions, and its significance within the institutional framework of the European Union. The learning objective is to understand the role, powers, and organization of the European Parliament. It is particularly noteworthy as the only directly elected institution of the European Union, which gives it a specific mandate to represent EU citizens. The European Parliament is the sole directly elected institution of the European Union. It serves as a significant forum for political debate and decision-making at the EU level. Its primary function is to represent the interests of EU citizens. This explainer is structured in 4 parts. First, we will discuss the Parliament's key powers. Second, we will examine its organization and internal rules. Third, we will cover its role in promoting democracy and rights. Finally, a summary will be provided.
We will now begin with the first section, the Parliament's key powers. It is important to note that the Parliament's influence has grown significantly over time through successive EU treaties, establishing it as a key actor in the Union's decision-making processes.
The Parliament's authority is based on 3 main powers: legislative, budgetary, and supervisory. We will now examine each of these powers in detail. First, let's consider its legislative power. The Parliament acts as a co-legislator. This means it shares the power to adopt and amend legislative proposals and does not act alone in the legislative process.
The Parliament shares its co-legislator role with the Council of the European Union. The European Parliament represents the citizens, while the Council represents the governments of the member states. Together, these 2 institutions adopt and amend laws and decide on the EU budget, thereby setting the direction for the European project.
The second key power is budgetary power. Similar to its legislative role, the Parliament shares with the Council the authority to decide on the annual budget of the European Union. This provides the Parliament with significant influence over the allocation of EU funds. The third main power is supervisory power. The Parliament exercises democratic oversight over the work of the European Commission and other EU bodies. This function is essential to ensure that these institutions are working democratically and are accountable for their actions. Furthermore, the European Parliament cooperates with the national parliaments of the EU member countries. This collaboration allows for the exchange of information and the inclusion of national perspectives in the EU decision-making process. Having discussed the Parliament's powers, we will now turn to its organization and internal rules. We will examine how this large, multilingual institution functions on a daily basis. The legal basis for the Parliament's internal organization is found in the treaties. Specifically, Article 232 of the Treaty on the Functioning of the European Union states that the Parliament shall adopt its own rules of procedure. These rules govern all aspects of its work. Several key elements define the Parliament's organization. These include its detailed rules of procedure, its designated places of work, the provision of support staff for its members, and the management of its own budget. In addition to its legislative, budgetary, and supervisory functions, the Parliament has a broader role in promoting democracy and rights. This section will explore that mission. A core role of the European Parliament is to promote democratic decision-making within Europe. As the Union's directly elected institution, it has a specific responsibility to uphold democratic principles. The Parliament's commitment to these values extends beyond the EU. It actively supports the advancement of democracy, freedom of speech, and fair elections globally. It uses its position to advocate for human rights worldwide. This concludes the main sections of the presentation. We will now provide a final summary of the key points discussed. In summary, there are 4 key takeaways. First, the European Parliament is the EU's only directly elected body representing citizens. Second, it is a co-legislator with the Council sharing both legislative and budgetary powers. Third, it holds supervisory power over other EU institutions. And fourth, it actively promotes democracy and human rights in Europe and throughout the world. This educational module has provided an overview of the European Parliament. It is part of a comprehensive series on European Union civic education. Further modules on other EU topics are available in the corresponding playlist.